Well, hello again, Union Hill. Welcome back to another Share Your Story. I hope everyone had a good holiday break. It's been a little while since we've had time to record with people, so I'm very excited to have Jackie Dean, or Dizzy as everyone calls him here. I think you even corrected me one time when I called you Jackie. You're like, it's Dizzy. So appreciate Dizzy taking time out of your busy schedule to come and do this with me.
Yeah, I go by several, I guess, different identities, but Dizzy is the one I'm most comfortable with.
Okay.
It's been that way for a while.
Okay. Well, before we get into everything else, I know you told me the story. Where did Dizzy come from for your nickname?
Okay, yeah. Last name is Dean. So growing up, I was a Cardinal fan, played baseball a lot, and coaches just started calling me Dizzy. Didn't really know who that was at first because Dizzy Dean wasn't a current player at the time, but looked him up, and after a while I thought, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna keep that.
There you go. Well, that's awesome. Well, appreciate you, Diz, to be able to come and speak to us a little bit about your background. You've been here at Union Hill for a long time, so I'm excited to get to know you a little bit. Selfishly, I do these just for my own sake, but I know a lot of people have really appreciated hearing other stories. So let's just start off a little bit. Tell us about your background. What was it like for you growing up, and a little bit of your history?
Yeah, I grew up in Springfield. Grew up in the church. East Grand Church of Christ is where basically my first time going to church would have been there as an infant. My parents brought me. So always kind of been there. As a kid, loved playing baseball, sports, loved collecting things. Baseball cards was a big thing. My parents were big into metal detecting, so I got into that as well. Those are some hobbies that I love, and I still do that. Played sports in school, just maybe kind of typical kid.
Yeah. Well, metal detecting, that is interesting. I didn't know you still did that. So what has been like your favorite find that you've had as metal detecting?
So most of the time I like to hunt in the rivers and creeks, and found a lot of cool stuff. Found several rings, Union soldier buttons, bullets from Civil War. Found a 1781, like half real, like a Spanish colonial coin. Oh, wow. Several coins from the 1800s, just lots of cool stuff.
That's cool. Well, man, that's exciting. That's a cool hobby you don't hear about very often anymore. I see those videos of people on the beaches a lot of time is what I go to, but going on the rivers, finding rings and some cool coins and things like that.
It's relaxing. It's kind of my therapy. So
there you go. Yeah.
I would do it 10 hours a day, every day for the rest of my life.
Retirement project in the future. Well, so kind of grew up with baseball and playing sports here in Springfield, grew up going to church a little bit. And so what was your church experience like as a kid?
Mostly just like watching people, lead worship. My dad would get up there and lead worship. He was a really anxious guy, but he would still get up there and speak. And so I admired him for kind of fighting through that anxiety. But that was kind of my first sort of, when he would get up there, I would listen. And then after I was baptized, I started kind of paying more attention to actually what was being said, and maybe grew more out of that.
So being able to see your dad, as you said, an anxious guy, still kind of get up and do maybe the hardest thing. I don't say that just because we're both song leaders, but that's a hard thing to do, especially if you have some nerves about it, to start singing, which is a very vulnerable thing to do.
Yeah, he would be asked to speak, and he would have panic attacks, and he said, they asked me to do it, so I wanted to do it because they asked me.
Oh, wow.
So I appreciate that about him.
Yeah, that takes a lot of courage. And then I know you yourself do some of our song leading here as well, and appreciate you being able to see your dad do that and kind of step into that same role. Yeah. I know we get a lot of compliments for your song leading. I love the old songs you pick because you know them a lot better than I do. And so I don't usually pick those songs, but you do them really well.
Well, thanks. I can't read music very well, so it has to be a song that I've heard a million times. And so I'll probably always sing old songs.
Well, there you go. What you're familiar with and what you know. So kind of mentioned when you got baptized. Do you remember what age was that and what kind of led up to that decision?
Yeah, I was 11 years old. So this was summer of 1988, Happy Hollow Bible Camp. My brother had been baptized earlier that week, and it was a Wednesday night, and it was a stormy night, one of those like scary storms, tornado warning kind of thing. And they sent all the kids down to their cabins because they were downhill. I thought that was a safer place. And so we're down there in the cabins, and it's like the strongest of storms. And we're all the kids start telling ghost stories, and the camp counselor he starts talking about faith and being baptized. And he, at one point said, if you want to go right now in the middle of the storm, we'll go right now. And, at the time, like the lightning and, thunder, like it's a crazy storm. Mm-hmm. And I just sort of raised my hand. I was like, I'll do it, do it now. And, wherever that came from, I'm not sure. Maybe it was the ghost stories that scared me to death or something else. But mm-hmm. we all got ready. And one other kid, it ended up being the camp counselor's son. He was like, well, I want to do it too. So we had 2 kids that were going to go, and the rest of the boys were going to come, just follow along with us. And I remember standing at the screen door of the cabin and looking out. It was nighttime, and hearing the rain just hit the puddles outside. And, every once in a while that flash of lightning and the wind blowing the trees, and it was just a big storm. And I thought, man, this is kind of crazy. But as soon as I opened the door, everything stopped.
Oh, wow.
The entire storm just stopped. And it took us about 45 minutes to walk down to the pool, to walk up to the A-frame and call my parents and say I just got baptized. And at one point, the camp counselor said, you guys realize the storm like literally stopped when we walked outside. And we went back to the cabin. I was the last one to get in the bunk, changed out of my wet clothes. And like as soon as my head hit the pillow, this big flash of lightning just went across the sky and this loud blast of thunder. And I was like, the storm just opened up again.
Wow.
And, whatever that is, whether we, say God or coincidence or, that's not how everybody's story goes, I realize, but that's how mine went. And I remember laying there as I was, falling asleep. I just remember laying there thinking, wow, God is huge, and praying to him and just praising him.
Wow. That's really cool to be telling, I guess, the ghost stories or whatever led up that church camp experience. But to then be, okay, I'm ready to be baptized, but it's storming outside. Like we'll still go, we'll brave it and do this thing. But to like open the door and it just calm.
Immediately stopped. Yeah.
Wow. That's a really cool, just like metaphor or whatever the right English term is for that, to be able to see kind of like the storms of life and then the calm and peace that baptism and being with God can be.
Yeah. I remember, of course, you have that spiritual high, and like a week or 2 later, I'm back to the real world. And the church says, hey, the Dean boys, both of them got baptized. We're going to put them to work. We're going to get them up on the stage and let them help lead worship. And it was, from the high to the low, basically, kind of story where we're passing communion trays. And, the guy doing the communion talk, he says amen after, asking for grace and that kind of thing. And I file off the stage first. My brother's right behind me. And I hear him say, like, you idiot, you're going the wrong way. Like as soon as I'm like leaving the stage, like to find the right aisle. And I look back at him and I'm like, no, you're the idiot. You're the moron, and like right there in front of everybody, like, 11-year-old kid. And I just remember like looking up after that and seeing my mom's face, like, I'm going to destroy you. And like seeing other people just, people are solemn anyway during communion time, but just seeing everyone just look at me like you're, this is the worst moment ever. But I also remember, like, if you think of the idea of acceptance and grace, I remember a guy named Robert Park, who I don't know what happened to him really years after that, but he came up to me and my brother after service and said, I really appreciate you boys and your willingness to lead service. And that acceptance was powerful. And it's, because we had just humiliated ourselves, and like right during communion, we'd called each other idiots and basically shoved on each other on a stage in front of the entire church. I don't know that I've never seen that in my life, but we were idiots for sure.
Oh man. Yeah. To have that church camp high, to then calling your brother an idiot during communion
in front of
300 people. Yeah. I can imagine what a parent's face would be when they see their kids doing that.
Yeah. If you could hotline a parent for how they look at their kid, anyone looking at my mom's face, and I saw her 3 times because I had to get back up there.
Oh, so that was like right at the beginning.
That was the very beginning.
Oh,
so it's
good.
Like, okay, now we're passing, the fruit of the vine, and I'm like looking at my mom, like I know what's going to happen to me when I get home. And then got to do it one more time. Got to pass the contribution basket. I'm looking at my mom and she's looking at me like, I knew I was dead.
but to be mortified and yourself, but then to have someone come up afterwards and just show that grace and just like that's what church is about, right? Is to be able to have those people come in and just say, I'm glad you're serving.
Yeah, it's definitely, we have our relationship with God and we have our relationship with church, and sometimes they can be very far apart, or they can be congruent with each other, where you feel God's love through the people you're with.
Man, that's beautiful. And so you got baptized, you started serving at the church, and I assume they kept asking you to do it even after that situation.
Yeah. I got back up there a few more times, and soon after that it was song leading, and then I think I was 16 when I preached a sermon.
Okay. And so worked through high school and all here in Springfield. And then tell us a little bit about your college experience. Where'd you go and kind of what happened there?
Yeah, so high school, I wasn't really an academic kid. I didn't know if I had much in me to go to college, but a little bit of encouragement. Went to Harding and did really well in school, and psychology degree, and then went to grad school and doctoral school got my doctorate in psychology, and thankfully passed the psychology licensure exam, which is a beast of an exam, but was able to get through that, and went from a kid who didn't think he basically only got A's in choir and PE.
Okay.
And then ended up with like a 3.8 or whatever in college. So,
wow.
So somehow that happens. And I say that because it's possible for people who don't think they've got it to actually do well.
Okay. So for those that are good at the curricular classes to then kind of buckle down and get your doctorate in psychology. And as you said, that is not an easy program to go through.
I remember my English 2 teacher in high school recommending me for English 3 honors. And I took the little slip down to the academic advisor, and she immediately was like, you're not an honors kid. And so that was kind of, again, the identity at the time, but somehow that was able to come out of that.
So what led you on that path of, okay, I'm not really the academic necessarily in high school, but I want to get my doctorate in psychology. So what led you to that?
I think, well, there's a gentleman by the name of Tom Pickard who was a counselor for my parents and church counselor, and he helped them a lot. My mom has struggles with depression, has her whole life. Her her dad really has been, he's passed away now. I love him, but he was not a really good person for her. And she had a lot of trauma out of that. And this individual, Tom Pickard, was instrumental in helping her a great deal. And so my eyes were kind of open to that being a form of ministry. And I didn't know of any really established counseling programs in churches, but I just kind of had the thought, I want to provide that service, but I don't want it to be a thing where people have to pay, a ton of money to have that opportunity. And so I began mentoring with Tom, and he was very encouraging for me to, get the degree and find a way. And he basically said, trust God that the doors are going to open someday.
Oh, wow. So being able to witness what counseling in a church looks like in your own home and with your own parents, to see the influence that he had on it, to have that mentor and inspiration, to be like, okay, this is something that I think is beneficial and I don't see very much going on in churches.
Yeah, Tom Pickard is one of my heroes. I look forward to seeing him again someday.
Yeah. And so had that inspiration to then, okay, I'm going to go on and get what I need to get with the degrees that I want to do this with, and graduated from Harding and got your doctorate in psychology, finished the test, and then ended up here at Union Hill. What does that transition look like from school to Union Hill working here?
Yeah, Union Hill kind of found me in a way. Like Heather and I, my wife and I, when we graduated from Harding, we came back to the area and started attending Sunset. Church plant came out of Sunset. Maybe, let's see, that would have been like fall of 2000 or so. 4 years or so later, 5 years later, Steve said, hey, I know you do some therapy. We got some couples that are struggling. Would you mind working with them? And it just kind of came from that. Maybe the providence of Tom saying, trust it, it'll eventually work its way out.
Yeah.
And suddenly there it was, and I was starting.
Wow. And so quickly after the plant, then seeing that need of couples need help, and still being able to use that to kind of slowly build until you had a office here at the church building, and here most of the days of the week, I know as well. So trusting what he said, that God's going to provide a door for you to be able to do this.
Yeah, it's been really good. I know I was very much a rookie when I started, but you learn through what you do. So.
Yeah. Well, very cool. So tell us a little bit about your counseling ministry. What are some of the things? I know you can't go into a lot of details about with the confidentiality, but what does your kind of days look like, and what areas do you really enjoy working in?
I don't know if I have a preference. I mean, I like working with couples. I like a lot of the individual therapy because you also get to experience people have to show a lot of courage to step into an office and talk to a stranger and say, my anxiety is overwhelming and I can't hardly even get out the door to go to work and sit there for 8 hours or be there 8 hours, or I'm facing addictions, and to just admit that, it's hard in church, especially, to admit even small struggles. And so to have people that have the courage and the humility to open up and reveal a significant part of their life. As far as like the clinical work I do, I've worked a lot with depression, anxiety. I've had anxiety in my life, so that's really been my biggest teacher of how to provide therapy, is my own experience with it. Again, marriage therapy, I work a lot with kids, so I know you work a lot with kids as well. So just a lot of different things.
Yeah. So a wide variety, been able to deal with a lot of different, from the clinical side of things and also the therapeutic side of things, being able to do kind of a little bit of everything with your degree. It allows you to a wide variety, not necessarily narrowed in on one topic.
Right.
And so if you were to encourage someone or talk a little bit about taking those first steps, how would you encourage someone that is thinking about maybe seeking out therapy? What would you say to those people that are kind of asking those questions?
I think there's a pressure to present as though you have it all together. And that's something that we all need to get rid of, basically, and just see our own struggles and know that we're human and accept that about ourselves. Therapists struggle in different ways, and you can have the insight, but it doesn't mean you're always going to make the right decisions. And so just if someone is struggling, to trust that there's people that care and are not there to judge you, and or maybe even know exactly what you're experiencing, and just to take that step.
Yeah. And I like what you said before, of a lot of times it feels like even at church, there is more of an air of we have everything together because we go to church. And at least that was my experience growing up as well, of everyone's perfect at church. And we go to church, everyone's wearing their best clothes most of the time. And no one talks really about, unfortunately, the sin in our lives, which is what we're told to do in church, and to have that community. And so even when you're a part of a church, sometimes it feels like that confession of vulnerability of, man, my life is not put together and I have a lot of things that I'm struggling with, and I don't have an outlet to do that because maybe I don't want to seek out one of the elders or or Steve or whatever preacher you have at that time. And so it's really cool for Union Hill to have this opportunity for, hey, there's someone that is a little bit more confidential, that has expertise and training and experience dealing with a wide variety of topics. And so being able to, hey, this is a place that, everyone struggles. Like, we go to church because we're not perfect.
Right.
And that's even more reason why I think counseling fits perfectly in with church, is because no one's perfect. We all need help. And that's why God gave people talents like you to listen and be able to encourage and give advice from lived experiences with your own family history of it. And as you said yourself, of dealing with anxiety and working through that. And I mean, counseling and church just fits so well together. And so it's really exciting to see more of that happening now. Because I know when you started, as you said, that was not something that was common of seeing a lot of that. But the more ministers I talk to now, especially in like the youth ministry and some of the younger guys, they're getting counseling degrees on top of it. That was like the one area that they keep seeing that needs growth in it.
Yeah, we need to do more than just say pray it away. And not that prayer is not important, but to be able to, I remember a client from several years ago whose husband died, and the preacher basically said, why are you having anxiety? You just need to pray. And then a week later, it was the frustration, or at least she felt like it was frustration of, you're still having anxiety. What's wrong with your faith? And so I appreciate what you're saying, that preachers are looking at the mental health side of their ministry.
Yeah. And sometimes it felt like there was a separation for a while. But as you said, prayer is equally important in the counseling, but luckily God gives people to be the answer to those prayers.
Right.
Maybe you've been praying to have your anxiety or depression or whatever it is lessen. Well, there's people here that can help with that becoming better and getting better and not having to struggle with it on your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, very cool. It's great to see how long you've been here, kind of since the beginning of the plant working here. To go back a little bit, I know you mentioned Heather. I think I heard you and Heather met at Happy Hollow, though, right?
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So how did that come about?
15 years old, met her. I was hitting rocks into the woods with a wooden baseball bat at night, and I see this beautiful girl sitting, in the rec hall, and I was just like, I went from I'm imagining myself as a Major League Baseball player to I'm imagining myself marrying this girl, and it went like that for about 10 minutes. That's all it took.
Okay.
And she wasn't convinced at all. She wanted me to go away, I think, pretty much because she was, just having a private moment, and I was this kid that just walked up and started talking to her.
You were hitting rocks in the woods 1 second. And
I was hitting rocks and I was hitting on her. So it just went like that. And I remember walking down to the cabin like I met the girl I'm going to marry. And as crazy as that sounds, and I was mesmerized with her.
Oh, well, very cool.
Still am.
One of those church camp romances that were actually worked out.
Yeah, of course, that's before you have cell phones. And I had her phone number and her address written on a piece of paper, and then I lost it.
Oh, no.
And I found it 7 or 8 months after the camp ended under a stack of baseball cards. So that could have been, life-changing for sure. But she happened to go to camp that next summer, and then we hit it off for sure at that point.
Okay. Well, that's fun. I heard that from, I think Eli told me that you guys were church camp crushes, and then went to Harding together and came here. And so being here at Union Hill for quite a while, since basically the beginning, what are some of those things about Union Hill that you wish would, and we do a lot of things, I think, really well, but what are some of those areas that you wish you could see grow even further and expand upon?
Well, that's a good question. It's a challenging question because it kind of has a little bit of a negative mixed in with a positive, and I don't disapprove of the question. I don't know that I would say Union Hill as much as church in general. I think Christians as a whole struggle with othering people far too much.
What do you mean by that?
Like separating how we feel about ourselves from how we see other people. Like there's calling out sin, recognizing sin, and then there's rebuking people in a way that pushes them away. And so again, this isn't a response specifically to Union Hill, but it's the idea of what, I envision Satan looking at the church and saying, okay, the church cares about people, but from a screw tape letter standpoint, let's convey to the Christians which ones they really need to care about or which ones can be disqualified from being focused on. And that's a real temptation. And so we think like if I look at it as the, when Jesus talks about what we do for the least of these, he basically mentions everybody that is in a rough spot. And there's a risk, I think, in church to disqualify people in a rough spot.
Yeah. And so being mindful of who's in need and who is needing church, that we sometimes write off to be like, well, you would be coming here already if you wanted to. And so then we don't reach out to people that might desperately be needing to hear the gospel.
Right. Yeah. And it's a question of how does the outside world, if I can use that phrase, view us? Really, you should be asking the outside world what Union Hills could do better.
That's true. Of what areas could we grow in? It's nice to hear kind of from the inside perspective. And as you said, there is like a negative connotation kind of mixed into it, but that is not needed. I think if we were to look at church and be like, oh, we've got everything perfect, then that's probably an area we need to look at of like, why do we think we've got everything put together?
Yeah, it's an important question. I was more making fun of the situation, but it's a very important question. We have to look at our struggles and how do we miss the mark? Because we do.
Yeah. And so making sure that it's a priority, and as you said, not just Union Hill, but as a church in general, that we look for those that are being passed over. And as you said, that othering of people of, well, you're the other group and we're the church group. Right. And so you don't belong with us. And Jesus really got mad at people that did that. With the Pharisees and the scribes and the experts of the law, they othered a lot of people.
Right.
I mean, I think of the story of like the Pharisee and the tax collector that Jesus talked about going to pray in the temple.
Right.
And he othered in the prayer, like, thank you, God, that I'm not like that tax collector over there.
That was in Steve's sermon yesterday. So
Yeah. To then, oh man, the tax collector had it right though. He was the one that was humble enough to come to God and say, I know I'm not worthy to be in the temple right now. And what would church look like if we all had that humble attitude to come into church and be like, God, I'm not worthy of your love, but thank you for accepting me in. How can I bring others in to feel that same love?
Yeah.
And seeing how church would grow in that way.
I think we would not have room for anybody. We'd have to have 4 or 5 services if the majority of people thought we had that humility.
Yeah, absolutely. We wouldn't have enough seats if everyone felt the same, and being able to bring everyone into it. So then on the opposite end of what's part of Union Hill or the church as a whole that you think that we are doing well, what's one of your favorite parts about being here at Union Hill?
When I think of favorite, I think of like I don't know, this was maybe a dumb idea, but like the Pollocks are awesome.
Oh,
I mean, the dessert table is fantastic.
it is.
But as far as like what's meaningful to me or what I appreciate, I mean, you've conveyed it already, the focus of the church to have ministries that, it was a big investment for Union Hill to pay a salary, to open up an office, provide some renovations for that office, and to basically say, we want this. And I know there's bigger plans for the counseling program, to include several people, and that's already kind of happening now with Linda and with yourself. And I think that's significant because when we look at that struggle again for the church for people to feel like they can bring their burdens, the counseling ministry is a way for that to be countered. And my favorite part, or my most meaningful part, really the people that I get to know through that ministry, the people who have that courage to come in and share those struggles and their brokenhearted moments. And, I love them. I care very much for them. And, for the most part, this isn't a surprise to you, but I'm like on a top 10 list somewhere for the most introverted person in the world. and so when I look at church, I see, our congregation, I see maybe 200 or so people in the second service, and I may know 30 or 40 of them. But the people I know through the counseling ministry, I know them very well. And they're very dear to my heart.
Yeah. And being a church that foresaw a need for that, and not just within the counseling, I think Union Hill has done a really good job at being open to a lot of different ministries that are not necessarily the usual church ministries, which has been really great for our elders to be open for that and being a yes eldership, where there's hardly a time that they tell people, no, you can't do that here, which is really great to be able to have a church leadership that is open-minded in that sense.
Yeah, a lot of credit to our former elders as well, but to our leadership, because I remember I started full-time 14 years ago, and I remember the elders brought in surrounding churches, their elders, and basically said, we're not just providing this for our members, we're providing this for your members too. And, can you support this? And nobody supported it, and that's okay. Everybody has their own thing, but the elders didn't slow down on that mission. They went ahead and said, "Well, this is needed, and we're going to do it."
That speaks to a lot to our past eldership as well, not just the current one, of just the forethought of what was needed. And I know you are dear to my heart because you're kind of the inspiration for me to get my counseling degree.
Thanks. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I don't know if you probably don't remember when I first started, I had an accounting degree. And I remember the first kid that came in and talked to me about their parents getting a divorce. And I was like, I can't put this on a spreadsheet. And so what do I do with this? I was like, well, we have Diz here. So let me go talk to Diz a little bit about what that looks like. And so really started thinking about, okay, if I'm going to do ministry here, I feel pretty good with my teaching and it's still improvement, but I can do that. But I really don't know how to minister to kids and being able to do that. And so seeing you have a counseling program here at church, I was like, that's something that I think I would really enjoy doing. So you were my inspiration for getting my degree, and really appreciate the work that you've led up to, as you said, this even growing, and hopefully have future plans for more counseling here.
Yeah,
and growing that area. So really appreciate all the work that you have done and what you do, because you bring people into church here at the building that would have never stepped in a church building before as well. And so being able to provide love for them, those people that are in a really vulnerable place, is doing a lot of really great work. So thank you for everything that you do for us here at Union Hill.
Well, thank you as well.
And so thanks I know you have a busy schedule, and so we'll let you get back to your day, but I appreciate you taking time to talk a little bit about your past and history and tell us a little bit about your story. So appreciate everyone listening along, and we're getting back into more recordings. And so we're not going to have just staff members. We're going to be opening up to other members of the church. And so maybe it's going to be vulnerable if I ask you to come talk in front on a microphone. It's not that scary, even though it might look a little professional, as Diz said before we started recording, but I've really enjoyed being able to hear these stories of everyone. So look forward to the next one. Until that time, God bless everyone.